Yeah. Mike sounds good.
Okay, sweet.
Welcome. This is James from Eaton Radio, Hong Kong, and
And this is Cheryl, also from Eden Radio Hong Kong.
we have a very special guest in the booth right now. Maybe please introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah, I'm Elijah from London. I just got here. I got off the plane like 2 hours ago. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here. First time here in 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay, last time you were here, you were playing Clock and Flap.
Yeah, so I was playing Crock and Flap, and I think the lineup was with like Shy FX and some artist called Pinch, and Subtract was playing another stage. And yeah, but
Subtrack was playing.
yeah,
Really? Here in Hong Kong?
yeah, it was
Oh,
yeah, the
I
same
don't,
year.
I don't recall that.
Were you there
I'm a
for?
big Subtract fan. I was
Oh, you were
there.
there? Oh,
Yeah.
you didn't see Subtract play.
I remember Lone was playing,
Okay.
but Subtract was playing with the mask.
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's
Fun.
just doing a DJ set. It wasn't like a full live thing.
Oh, okay.
But I definitely remember that. Um, yeah, I think it was that same time.
All right. Nice. And you're on tour, traveling kind of the APAC region, Australia and Asia right now?
Not really. Like I was in Australia last week, and then I actually went back to London, and then I've just come here from London.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
all the kind of tours are broken up. I like going home and like um, tapping back into London, even if it's for a day or two. So I went back literally 2 days or a day and a half, and then flew back again.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
know you've been to Japan on tour before, but outside of Japan, is this your first time out in Asia, like outside of Japan?
No, so I've done Vietnam. I did Ho Chi Minh last year. I did Manila earlier on in 2024. I've across India last year in December. Where else have I been? I went to Bali last year. Um, yeah, I've visited quite a lot of places: Thailand, Korea, um, China. Yeah, in the mainland. I went to Chengdu and Guangzhou, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Beijing. Yeah. So yeah, quite extensive but this is over the space of like 10 years.
What was your last first impression of Hong Kong from last time?
So last time, it was just very quick. So um, I feel like I met up with James. We had like some food, but I didn't go to like a club or anything super local, so I didn't really get to tap in with what people were doing. I couldn't really get a sense of what local music or local DJs in that sense, like because yeah, Clock and Flap, so many international acts. So I was staying in a hotel where there was just those acts, and yeah, I couldn't really get a sense of it.
So Eaton Radio Hong Kong, just to introduce it to you, is like a community radio platform. We also have a hotel in DC, so we kind of share the archive space, Mixcloud, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that you came from pirate radio roots, so I wanted to ask you what kind of like what does radio mean to you, kind of from then till now, and especially now in the streaming era.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So, bit of context. So, pirate radio is I guess an illegal broadcasting system in London, um, and people would literally put up aerials on tower blocks
Yeah.
and broadcast illegally on the FM dial. And what I mean, originally, back in the '60s, that's what sparked Radio One. So, the most famous radio station in the UK, the BBC. They were like, "We need to stop this. Let's like kind of onshore these people,"
Right.
and they made it like a legitimate radio station. But the smaller ones kind of could just continued, played underground music or like kind of music from local communities. So for me, like I'm like Jamaican, so you could like hear like reggae and dancehall, and then later on jungle, UK garage, and then grime, and so it's always been like a kind of through line in my life, like the most accessible, oh, the most accessible kind of medium. Basically, it's free to listen to, obviously, and it was just super local. Like you just heard local voices, local music, and they used to have like call-in shows and all sorts of things. Whereas I think now Instagram or like TikTok or like Boiler Room, all these things are global. Everything's global now, right? And this was just hyper local.
I think on the topic of pirate radio, I think really often about how like LimeWire and like peer-to-peer sharing has changed the value of like a song, like the price of a song. And I think, in my opinion, there's like no going back. Like once people know how to get music for free, you can't really go back and like ask people to pay more for it. So my question is, and in my opinion, that's a healthy thing in terms of community, because piracy obviously is like bad for business, but I think it demands more love from people, or I think love kind of like sustains piracy. But my question is, do you think that artists can ever earn more or ever have a truly sustainable music career in the future in the streaming era?
Yeah, usually it's not from just music alone. So it's like if you're an artist, you're gonna have a bit more holistic revenue stream. So it'd be like the recordings, the publishing, live, brand work, and other kind of associated work from creativity. And to maybe like music is like the magnet for opportunity rather than the sole thing that you end up earning off, which I guess probably would have happened anyway as people became like more multi hyphenate, or like all of these kind of skills converge more. So it's like not that uncommon for someone to like write their songs, produce them, record them themselves, and then put them out and own them now, whereas 20 years ago that was a lot less common.
Do you think, I mean, this is a very like wide question, but do you think it's easier or harder to be an artist today than say pre-LimeWire days?
I think it's easier to participate, but it's just as hard as it was then to make a living out of it. I think there's a perception that there's probably more artists making a living out of music than there is now, but I just think it's just because what you can see on your timeline. So if there was a timeline in 2004, like you still would have felt like everyone was earning from music and all this kind of stuff. But now, I think it's just, again, like I think if I started 10 years earlier, my career would have been very, very different, and I wouldn't have had all these kind of different opportunities. I would have probably just been like a local DJ playing dance halls or something, and not really pushed out further than that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what brings you here is the Yellow Square or Yellow Squares series?
Both, I think.
Okay.
I don't, yeah, you know, somebody, this project, I feel like I haven't even named it properly. It's like Yellow Square, Yellow Squares, Make the Ting. I don't even know. Like, it's just whatever. Like, whatever. Yeah, Yellow Squares is good.
So the Yellow Squares series that kind of took over, became viral the last 3 years, 2.5 years?
Yeah.
More or less. I'm curious, is this something, first of all, I want to ask about the status of Butters and the kind of timeline of when Butters kind of sunsetted and Yellow Squares started. And then also, is this something that you think you could have executed had it not been for the pandemic happening?
Yeah, so I'll start there. So the Yellow Squares came out of the pandemic, so I kind of quit social media, not in like some big way. I just like deleted the apps in June 2020 when like all the mad stuff was happening in the world, and then I tried to log back in a few months later, and then it realized that my actual accounts were deleted, so I like got my handles back, lost all the followers, and I had to start from zero again. So like about 6, 7, 8 months later, I kind of started tweeting just ideas. And you know, if you're tweeting to no one, where do you start, right? You've got literally had no followers. And so I was thinking about just how to be useful, kind of what scene, this was still in lockdown in the UK, like what would be interesting, useful for like whatever the scene is going to be when things open up. So I was thinking about that a lot. And I didn't think it would be more than that. So I've always kind of tweeted like that, asked questions, kind of had like some sort of curiosity about where things are going. And then a DJ called Jubilee from New York said, you can put this on Instagram because these are good. And I couldn't, it took a while to get to the format that you see now. But first it was just a drawing on a piece of paper because that was just what I had. And then I was like, you know what? I saw this other artist use this app called Procreate, which is a free app on iPad. And I was like, okay, let me redraw it on that. The first few drawings were terrible, but people got the point. Had a couple comments. I was like, all right, let me keep going, and then figured out the app. And then the thing that you see now, I found it took about 3 or 4 months to find the proper format that I've pretty much stuck to. And then in terms of Butters, I think the idea was like a 10-year idea anyway. But like it wasn't something I saw myself doing forever. I think the artists that we released on the label had careers or have careers. Everyone kind of graduated and we never really signed anyone new. So it was like all of us, so me, Skilliam, Swindle, Royalty, Flavor D, DJ Q. It was like a graduation thing. So but before the pandemic kicked in, the idea in 2020 was to actually end the label with us funding 10 new artist labels.
Oh, wow.
That was the idea.
Okay.
And then obviously like COVID happened, all this kind of stuff, so we're like, oh, okay, I can't really afford to do that. I just wasn't sure what the landscape would be, so we did it with one artist called Ands, and we like gave us some funding. It was like small, it was not like some big amount of money, and a bit of guidance of how to get started, just as a proof of concept. And I thought I'd return to that a bit later on when I'm better positioned to do that with more artists. And effectively I've used the yellow square as that instead. So instead of like funding 9 other artists, I've kind of like just everything I've learned and learning, I've just shared it open source.
It's like a spiritual funding or something like that.
Yeah.
But and you've kind of like exceeded your goal, I guess, because you've reached so many people. And I was gonna say, when we were thinking of questions to ask you for this radio show and also for the lecture tomorrow for like Q&A, I was just so overwhelmed because these are all questions and topics that, because I make music myself, like me and my friends talk about these things so much, and there's so many difficulties being artists in the streaming era. And I think for context, for anybody who's listening, they can just go to your page and every square can be like a topic of discussion for an hour. But instead of talking about any specific square, I want to ask you, what do you think is your most optimistic take and your most like pessimistic take? It doesn't have to be necessarily a square that you posted, but just a notion that you've had that you think is your most optimistic, your most pessimistic.
Yeah, I guess like my most optimistic that's interpreted as a pessimistic one is, if you love music, you should learn how to DJ. So that's just like the most
Controversial.
But I just think it is like getting closer to the music that you enjoy and love in a tangible way, picking things for yourself, buying music, supporting artists. And if you, especially with electronic music, like the optimum way to engage with it is in the mix. I don't know if you're buying like 9-minute techno songs and just like listen to them all the way through. It's like just 10 times more fun to mix them and share them like interpersonally. If it's just us three, just having a little fun mix, that's like the best way to enjoy them. And I guess like at the other end of the spectrum, I have one of the squares, and it's like, I think a lot of people ask the question in this way, and it's like, how do I get paid to make whatever I like without having to fund it, while living in the most expensive city until I die? So that I feel like that's the problem that every artist is trying to solve.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of all artists, or not all artists, but a lot of artists that are trying to make a living out of this thing, you're like playing like 10 things on hard mode at the same time. Like you have like I guess the core thing that you're trying to sell is like accessible to everyone for free. You live in a place with high rent. You're, I guess, in a highly competitive thing that you don't control, because we just like put it on and then Spotify blows it up, cool, or TikTok blows it up, or whatever the platform is going to be. And there's just like not as much as in your control of what goes parabolic. Whereas I think paring that back, all of the things that we can control could make something just very different and interesting at the same time. And I think people tend to end up focusing on the things that you can't control.
Yeah, I want to go back to that. The more people casually DJing is good for music, because I think some people, especially like creatives and musicians and DJs especially, they read that and it gives them a pause, or it feels like provocative.
Yeah.
And I get the gist of it, but I wanted to, like, especially in the age of like celebrity DJ appearances and like what happened to what's her name, Grimes at
Coachella, yeah.
Coachella. How do you define a DJ in this sense? Like, is it more can DJing be like selecting? Can that be used interchangeably?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that there's, if I was just broadly simplifying it, it's like, if you love music, you should learn how to DJ. If you love food, you should learn how to cook.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, I think the most healthy way for most people engaging with sport is to participate. Yeah, you can sit there and watch as much football as you like. It's probably more enjoyable to play Sunday League. You know, if you usually the people that kind of watch, I don't know, Olympics or stuff like that, you have like some sort of tangible relationship with the sport. And it's the same with music. And I don't think you watch Olympics and think, well, it's only worth participating if you're going to be an Olympian.
Right.
It's probably worth participating for good health and exercise. And it's the same thing that I see with DJing. And I think people can't see DJing or DJs outside of someone on stage, when actually it's the same thing as, to me at least, is cooking or writing or
Curating
or like we don't say the same thing about photography, even though there's a camera in everyone's phone.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
More people casually DJing is good for music. Do you think more people casually making music is good for music?
Sure. I think there's a harder like learning curve, but I think more people making music is good for people. Does that make sense? So like, the joy that you get out of music, if more people had that, then more people would have joy.
Yeah. I agree with that theoretically, but obviously it means that the value of music changes when more people are playing.
No, maybe it gets higher.
Sorry.
Maybe it gets higher.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's not. I don't view this thing as like if more people do it, it gets less valuable. Like we're not trading on a scarcity thing. Like we're trading on like more people being interested and involved. Does that make sense? So I think say that people that maybe get to some high scale or something, like some, I don't know, sell out stadiums, there is obviously that's something else. Like I don't know, is your intention to be like a global pop star? Do you want to sell out like?
No.
Okay, so yeah, most people don't.
He is. His is. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, for me it's not. But
what would like a level be where you'd be like, yeah, this is
I
like
always ask
this
you
is the
this.
sweet spot.
Pearl sweatshirt.
I mean, I think anybody who makes any sort of art wants it to be appreciated, and of course, I would like to have a comfortable living wage.
Yes.
So like what you were saying earlier, and I mean, this kind of relates to the question that we'll ask later about gatekeeping. I also believe that more people participating is a good thing, because ultimately it's like more love, right, and more interest in it. But I think, for example, with like where is there? Do we just remove the bar completely though? The entry level, the entry point. Like if anybody can for free, I think everybody should. I think everybody should illegally crack Ableton and make a beat. Like I have no problem with that, but I understand the frustration of some producers that, you know, that make really solid songs, but at the same time they don't get the streams as somebody who just, you know, downloaded a bunch of splice packs and piece everything together without as much heart or intention. And I don't know, those things are hard to measure. Like, how do you measure effort? How do you measure quality of track? But
That's all subjective, and it's like the genie's out of the bottle here already. So a lot of these ideas, I'm saying, it's like, well, this has like not much material impact on making a difference. It's just like ideas, and like what I think is like generating good conversation, and like maybe when I think about creating things, it's like what could I create, even if it got no response, I'd still enjoy creating it, you know? So like you're saying that you want your work to be appreciated. Well, again, that's like outside of your control. So it's like making things that, irrespective, even if it got 0 plays, it would still be worth doing and worth, you know, it's not bankrupting you. You're gonna create in a way that, you know, if it gets 1 play, you're like happy, you know. And I feel like that's probably more sustainable for the 99% than, again, trying to find an audience and build a community and all of this other stuff. And this maybe sounds like really odd from my angle, but some, like, a very small amount of the ideas that I come up with or think about and write, I share. So, and I think most of the time people can't process that. They're like, what? Like, I'm only sharing a tiny bit of my thoughts, you know? And it's the same with musicians. You're not gonna like release all of the ideas that you work on or think about or songs that you make, but they're still valuable to you, you know? And maybe music will be in a more interesting space if we're like accept that it's just a very different thing from what we grew up on.
Speaking to music and DJing, I want to see if you can share a song that is a go-to in your DJ sets or a song that you rate recently, just to kind of break it up.
Yeah, all right, yeah. There's a song by Jim Legacy called DJ.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know that one.
Because as you talk about DJ.
Let me see.
That's a bit of a laugh.
All right.
You used to promise me you'd teach me how to DJ. You had your decks and I would go to pick a song. I chose a song, reminded me of all the things we used to do. No more. You don't wanna teach me how to DJ anymore. No more. No more. Teach me how to teach me It's been a while since you acted like you love me. I know that you don't worry about me. I'm sorry, I worry about you all the time. I'm so annoying to you. You don't put up with me no more. When you did, you used to promise me you'd teach me how to DJ. You had your decks and I would go to pick a song. I chose a song, reminded me of all the things we used to do. No more. You don't wanna teach me how to DJ anymore. No more.
Yeah, that's one. I'm still in the hood, glad I can't see you. You wanna be a rock star, pop star, but I'm like Breeze, I don't wanna be a rock star, pop star, rock star, pop star.
That was DJ by Jim Legacy, who I just discovered is the singer also on there.
Yeah.
And the producer. And Jim Legacy's also on the new Fred Again album, which I'm sure is going to get him a lot of new listeners.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, look at that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, gatekeeping. Have you ever been a gatekeeper?
I guess so. I think if you organize things and you get to some sort of sizable audience, you organically become a steward, maybe more than a gatekeeper. And there was things and ideas that I didn't like that I would be like, well, I'm not gonna book that. I wouldn't platform that. I don't want to work with these artists. I wasn't necessarily loud about it. I just my taste or like things I didn't want to do. So that was, I guess, a form of gatekeeping. But I think there's like another, I guess, but I guess I could call that curating maybe. I guess there's another kind of form of gatekeeping when you have a different role, when you like say like if you're running a public company or like you're running a community service, that it's not as easy to just run with your taste. Like I've never run like a real community service in that way. Or like Butters was like my company, I'll do what I want with it. So it's fine.
Right.
But if you like run something that is say like the hotel or like a club or a festival, you know, those barriers have to come down, but they gradually come down as you open up and get further and further out, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I often feel like, so my job here is basically overseeing the kind of cultural programming side of the hotel, which includes like a bunch of art and music activations. And I sometimes do feel like a gatekeeper only because I have to protect the brand and protect what we've already, like kind of our cachet, what we've already done and what we've already created. But then I feel like I'm also a gatekeeper in that I'm the person between the opportunity and like the artist in some ways, if that makes sense. So like I'm the person who will tell like the stakeholders this is like worth doing, you know, like I vouch for this and they have empowered me to make that decision. And I don't throw around that I don't like to throw around my weight like, oh, like I'm like this big decision maker, but I've been entrusted to a certain degree, and I feel like I am a gatekeeper, but I'd like to think that's not a negative thing, but it's like a positive thing that allows us to do a lot of good stuff, you know, and protects us from some stuff that would be like potentially sensitive and potentially maybe end our program because there's a lot of rules and regulations with criticisms of government and blah blah blah.
Sure.
So but also I think of gatekeeping as far as culture and exploitation as well. So protecting. So like there's an argument that, you know, for example, black culture is like and hip hop culture is like the most popular culture in the world. So is it are how should I say this? Like, should black people gatekeep their culture and protect it in that way from exploitation?
I was reading a tweet about this just before I came in, but I tried like to not even see that thing as a monolith, right? Like I've really tried to like dial back of like say like black culture. It's like, what does this mean? Like,
Or even say grime culture.
Yeah, see, like grime culture and black culture is different.
Yeah.
So like it wouldn't be like how gatekeeping applied in grime. Maybe I think it was like there was like a location benefit for people that are based in London, and in particularly in East London. There was like a platform gatekeeping from like the radio stations, I guess. If you couldn't get a show on one of them, then you would kind of be out of that loop. And there was definitely like a kind of circle of like artists that all kind of knew each other, that definitely protected their thing, that are still like the biggest artists in that thing today. But I wouldn't, again, I feel like that's for different reasons, like rather than like say like a culture reason. That's just a social reason. And there's sometimes those things that are not aligned. And like you said about like grime is a weird one because it's like a product of London multiculturalism that gets, I guess, filed under, I guess, Black British music, but there's a lot of hands involved in that, and it's like not as straightforward. Like got a very different DNA to like hip hop, and a very different DNA to Afrobeats. Like, so sometimes like when you're framing these cultures and the way people mix and what the music actually is, it's very hard to like say those things are the same, you know. And as things go out to the world, and this is not a concise point, but like as things go out to the world, there's like few layers of importance. So there's like where it's from, who made it, I guess what the construction of the sound is, and maybe where those people kind of originally came from, rather than it being like just their race or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Gatekeeping's hard. It's like I feel like there's no fixed rule.
There's so many, like, it can be applied to anything, but we often have this conversation with our friend about gatekeeping culture, in that, sorry, this is not very articulate, but just, for example, do you think that, so like, I feel like pre-internet, people had less, making music, sorry, the technology to make music and distribute music was less accessible to everybody. So like you had to get a label for just a chance to even hop in the studio and get something recorded. But obviously now it's democratized, and that's a good thing because more people can share that love and joy, and that makes for better music. It's a good thing that everybody can access Spotify for free, even if it has ads, because that means that we are learning more about, like, our knowledge now can transcend time and space, and we can go back in time and back in different corners of the world, etc. So that is removing certain gates, and I think that's a good thing. But if you go to the other end of the spectrum, like, does that mean that everybody can, does that mean if I listen to like 2 grime songs, like, can I be part of the grime community? Like, it's that, like, are you a real fan though? You know, like, you're wearing the band tee, like, do you name 5 songs? Are you a real producer though? Like, if you only use Splice and you've never, you know, you don't know your chords, like, that to me, I think there's some worth sometimes in gatekeeping something, because you are saying essentially that if you don't put in the work, the effort, you got to earn a place in this community. And I think, yeah, barriers are useful sometimes.
100%. Yeah, I think there is a barrier to entry, and I mean, even participating maybe doesn't mean that you're just part of something, right? So like, I guess someone maybe here could just be sitting making grime tunes, but it's not really connecting to the network here or to network in London. So, you know, does it make a sound? Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah. I also think ultimately with gatekeeping, like, you can't stop anybody from doing anything. Like,
no.
You can't stop somebody appropriating so bad and so hard. Like, even if you hate it and it makes you so pissed, like, you can't stop, you know, some kid in Hong Kong, like, getting braids and, like, you know, repping something that they're not really from. But
yeah, I think the thing with gatekeeping is when it comes to cultural erasure. So, like you said, like, anybody can, you know, become a participant. They don't have to be an Olympic athlete. They don't have to be the Michael Jordan of grime, whoever that is. I don't know who's that. But I think when it comes to other people picking it up and then them getting credit for that effort and saying, oh, like, this white kid from Scotland created, like, I don't know, like, Cantopop or something, or, you know, I don't know, whatever it is, like. So I think that's
I've seen this, like, with K-pop, like, with when they'll have, like, songs that are, like, referencing, like, UK Garage or Amapiano or something, and they're like, oh, okay, where's the line? But I think yeah, once things go out onto the internet, then like everything becomes like kind of open source in some way. So again, irrespective of our opinion, that the gate is once things have gone out there in the world, the gate is wide open.
Yeah.
And I think like once we shrink things down to things that we can control again, then it's down to us to like decide what standards that we hold individually and as organizations or as collectives or as communities, right? So it's impossible to do that on a macro level, but it is just as down to whatever your goals are, or as a community or as individuals, to uphold what you think is necessary.
Yeah.
Time is the creative director.
Time is the creative director. Do you believe time is a filter for quality? Do you believe essentially that good or great music or art always prevails? Like, do you think a song can go TikTok on viral? Maybe it's not a very good song, but it'll be viral for a few years. Sorry, not a few years, a few months, and then. But do you think the good shit lasts?
Not necessarily. Again, this is subjective, right? Like, so many of the songs that I like or just personally enjoy, like, they don't have a lot of streams or a lot of plays. Like, they have like some crazy amount of fans. Just as I like them, and I don't think everyone's work that you think is good is going to get to any scale. It doesn't mean, like, I don't know, just because even us three, we could all agree on like a song being good, and it wouldn't mean that they could come to Hong Kong and sell out a show here, right?
I guess my question is streams wise,
Yeah.
like to the market. Do you think time filters quality, and do you think that's reflected in money in a capitalistic world?
No, what tends to happen is there's a vessel for like another reason that something ends up getting streamed. So you've seen it with songs that have gone viral for random reasons, or like an old song has been in a film or been on something on Netflix, or like there's been a different reason why a song is connected, not them just uploading on Spotify and people finding it, you know? So whether it's like a viral video or someone removing the original context from it and placing it somewhere else, that's been the like catalyst to it getting to loads of people. And that can happen in any, like, it could happen with a song that was released yesterday, and it can happen with a song that was released 50 years ago. And that's kind of interesting. That never really used to happen before. And I think that's like, you know, why with artists that I'm like, okay, you might as well put out what you're making, because you never know like how things connect, or how it lands with people in any amount of time. This could happen like 3-4 years for reasons that are completely out of your control.
So we had a workshop with this. He's a musician named Jitam, spelled Jitwam, last year, and he was in his production workshop. He was talking about this idea of that he adopted. First thought is always the best thought. Do you agree with that as far as creating?
I think getting it down, like I do when I'm writing, getting the first thought down in like iPhone notes just alone, or the first like lyric or first few words, and then just refining from there. Like, I don't know if you know that meme, the midwit meme. It's like there's like you know what I'm talking about. Okay, it's like it's like the dumb guy on one side, then it's like it goes up the thing.
The bus.
Huh?
No, not the bus.
No, it's like a IQ curve basically. So it's like the really dumb person on one side, then it goes up,
I think I've seen
and then down. I'll find. Hold on. Hold on. Midwit. Yeah, put in like midwit meme or something. Yeah.
Midwit.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would have like the people on either end of the spectrum, they agree, and then the guy in the middle has like that one with the notes. This is me. Yeah. So so you have like the Apple Notes on one side, like the dumb guy. Then you have like the midwit has like Notion, Google Drive, Excel, all these like mad templates, and then the smart guy just has the Apple Notes.
But for different reasons, right?
Well, yeah, but they still get into the same end, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And I find that super interesting, like that, the simplicity of getting ideas down. Like, and done, most importantly.
Yeah.
Like usually, like sometimes when people have all these complicated structures, I'm like, are you actually exporting anything? Like, is anything even happening here?
Yeah.
And I feel like you have like these, I guess maybe me on the like low IQ end, and like some extreme like talent on the same end, and then like to an outside they will like, how don't you use any productivity tools? And it's like, nah, they're like, nah, just make the thing, man. Yeah, they're not even thinking, they're just making and then exporting. That's it.
I feel like this curve applies to so many things.
Yeah,
in
it's the
life,
best.
to everything.
So I use that curve as well for like the if you love music, you should learn how to DJ. There's like the on both sides, and then the midwit in the middle is like, but you gotta do your 10,000 hours, and if you haven't bought like vinyl and you haven't DJ'd in bars for 20 years, it's like this kind of thing. So I use it for everything. Like I just it flashes up in my life in so many different ways.
It's funny because when I think about all of this, like all these conversations I have with friends about streaming and blah blah blah, like difficulty of being an artist, that's the middle guy. Like I should just shut up and like open Ableton. It's really simple. I don't have to be talking about like streaming royalties or anything.
Yeah, it's like or maybe in this case it's like make a song that people like. That's it.
Yeah.
And you realize how hard it is. And
Yeah.
like making a song, a lot of people like all at the same time. Super hard.
Yeah.
That's like what everyone is trying to do. And it's like, it doesn't, like no matter what the state of the industry is, there's still gonna be a song that a lot of people hear all at once. And
that resonates.
Yeah, that resonates for some reason. And like, as I've been jumping like all these different countries, I'm like, okay, I'm hearing the same songs. So obviously that's because of the way information spreads these days and music being serviced in the same way. But there's also like, okay, maybe Taylor Swift seems to resonate with more people than, I don't know, the music that I like. I don't think that's a bad thing. I feel like it's good that there are still songs that like 100 million people like all at once. I think that's a good thing.
Do you feel like there's any gateway artists that you've heard recently that would introduce people to stuff that you like? I actually had this conversation with my friend today, and he was like, "Oh, Fred again, it's kind of getting boring for me." But I was like, I disagree, because I think Fred again, it's in movie soundtracks and everything, and I think that's going to introduce people to like the shit that the heads like, whether it's in the realm of like IDM or house, techno, and it could even get to grime even, because how Skrillex kind of dabbles. So has there been anything that you've heard recently that you think that is very popular, that can lead people to like the stuff that you like?
Yeah, like this artist Nia Archives, she makes Jungle. She's like singing on the songs. She's sick, and I think if you've never heard Jungle before that would be like a good entry point. If you like pop music and never heard Jungle, like she makes good songs, beats are hard. She presents as a DJ and the singer at the same time, so it's like the midway point. And then if you were like, okay, like who else makes music like this? The second person probably doesn't sing as well, it'll be just beats, or they make songs collaborate with different artists. You'll maybe get introduced to the MC side of things, and you keep digging down and you get to like, I don't know, all these like mad underground artists that so that's like an obvious one. Maybe that's like I guess she's a new artist. She's only released one album so far. Even Skepta, like he's someone that's been around for a long time, 20 years, and I think if you don't know anything about UK music, he's got enough of a range from the past 20 years of beats, albums, like this, I guess the go-between of like the difference between grime and rap and stuff that he's done with like the West African artists and stuff, and now DJing house music. Like it's like a good entry, like to how a British artist approaches music compared to maybe like an American of the same generation. Like you don't, I don't know, Kendrick Lamar's not DJing in clubs, house music. Like,
I think that's so interesting. Earlier when we were not recording, I was talking about Glenn McDonald, who used to work at Spotify as the data alchemist, and he's like the guy who makes all the algorithms. And this isn't public to everybody, but I think when he was working at Spotify, he would code algorithms for the people that worked at Spotify to expand their taste. And he made this thing called he had a playlist, a personalized playlist for everybody based on their listening history, and he had one called Edge Detector, which is, so your Discover Weekly just plays you based on your listening history, like related artists, but that kind of, like, if you just accept that as what you listen to every week, that kind of narrows your listening experience, because it only is going to recommend you, it won't surprise you basically, but the Edge Detector playlist would, I don't really understand how the code works, but it would recommend you songs that are right outside of that edge, and that gives you so many more paths to like expand this way, and instead of like going down into your own echo chamber and your own
it's like the opposite of a rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also it's all holes everywhere, but you just have a lot more options, and that's really interesting to me. And then the Edge deflector would show you songs that are like opposite to your edge. But yeah, that's why data is really interesting, because I think it just, like, if we only rely on algorithms to show us what we can like, I think we do go down our own lonely rabbit hole, and we end up like connecting less with people, because also if you don't put in the work, you don't know like the context behind the music. Whereas if you expand outwards, you really, you know, go use other resources like Reddit or something to like connect with communities and like learn about the actual people making the things, then I think that's a good thing. Sorry, where did I start? What was I saying earlier? Glenn McDonald. But we're talking about
You're on
that.
the streaming kick lately. She gave a talk we had a sound festival a few months ago, and Cheryl gave a talk with a local musician about the streaming era. So she did a deep dive and read like a few books about it. So that's where we were.
Yeah. Oh no, I remember. Shit, do I remember it?
It's like, who wants an egg tart?
Okay, so algorithms. How do you algorithms, radio,
Yeah.
YouTube music, real people talking about why they love what they love? How do you recommend that we all listen? And do you feel like, okay, that's a separate question. Sorry. How do you recommend that we listen to music in this era?
Okay, as many different inputs as possible. So I was saying on the way here with Nathan, is that I listen to a lot of music on recommendation. So if you said, "Oh, I listen to this album, it's sick," I'll listen to it. If I hear like someone else playing something in the car or like you know, in passing or at their house, I'll be like, "Okay, what's this?" I consume a lot that way. There's a lot of like DJs that I follow on Bandcamp, and I'll get their email of like what they bought. So like at the end of last year, I was like, Ben UFO bought on Bandcamp is my favorite music journalist, because I can just see what he's been buying and tap in. And then sometimes I check in of like whatever new albums are dropped, like pop things on like Spotify, and just kind of fumbling around with that if I'm traveling. I also like buy records occasionally, like if I go to someone's show and they're like selling a record, I'm like, "Ah, cool," because I know like everyone like loses money on their like live gigs. I'm like, all right, I'll give you the 20 quid for the record as well. make it work. And then YouTube, like YouTube has become like probably my main music platform now. So I mix between watching a lot of like live concert type things, and then things like Colors and Tiny Desk, and what else is there? Like obviously I watch like Boiler Rooms and The Lot Radio and all these kind of things, NTS and Rinse, and just really mix up the the throughputs basically. And then there's like probably music that I just must be hearing through social media that I never actually save or check the songs. And then one day I'm like, oh, that's that thing I've been hearing on like Instagram or on Twitter. And that happens a lot. Like I remember with even this is a really bait song, but with Essence, Wizkid and Thames song, I heard it for like weeks on Instagram, not realizing what the song was. And then when I heard it out, I was like, oh, it's a song from Instagram. And then when I actually went to listen to it in my own time, I was like, oh, this song is awesome. Like,
Yeah, and then I had Justin Bieber remix.
oh yeah, that came way later. But yeah, that was like, just sometimes it takes me a while to get there. But yeah, I have like a lot of different inputs. And when I'm DJing, I guess for each show, or like, because I DJ maybe like here and there, like every month or something. So I have enough gap between like each show to like seek out some new things that I can slot into what I'm doing. And yeah, that can come from everywhere.
So is this still true at scale? So that was another one of the yellow squares.
That's the most important square.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I'm writing from a perspective of someone that works in and around music and culture in London. Do these ideas work here in Hong Kong? Do they work in Mumbai? Do they work in Sao Paulo? Do they work in Sydney? Like, close that, make the thing works everywhere. Social media as a canvas works everywhere. A lot of the other questions, I feel like everyone should be asking at the same time. But then there's things that are really speaking to, like when I'm talking about BBC One Extra or something, that's very local concern. Or if I'm talking about even like the idea of like, say, Black British music, I'm like, this is not something that applies here. And I don't think that people outside need to take those ideas on, but just maybe apply it to the local scenes that they're in. So is this still true at scale? I guess like a lot of music industry things just play like music is the same everywhere. Like Spotify just acts as if music functions in society every place in the same way. Everyone likes the same songs. People play music in the same spaces. All clubs are the same. All bars are the same. We all grew up on the same music. You know what I mean? Our parents listen to the same thing. It's just like when we know it's not that, right? And is this still true at scale? That question is really like challenging myself to like think about, do these ideas land in it, or do they apply to the 99% more than the anomalies? Like so much music industry advice will be like, oh well, Drake did this or Beyonce did this. So it's like, well, they're the anomaly. Is it still true when it's the 99%?
Have there ever been any squares that you've that you posted and then time has passed and then you're like, nah,
Yeah,
that's wrong?
There's some things that I think they don't land well on the internet, and so like I had one of the early ones was like, artists are not content creators, and I believe that artists by default are not just content creator. A content creator there's no content creator that doesn't share their content, whereas you can be an artist and not share your work, right? Like you can paint at home, you can make songs, you can be an artist, you can live as an artist and it not be a public pursuit.
Yeah.
Whereas content is designed for public engagement. Like no one's sitting making TikToks and not putting them on TikTok.
There has to be an audience.
Yeah. Or it's made with the intent of an audience. And I think not all art and not all artists function like that. But how it lands with people, if I frame it that way, is, see, I told you, I'm not making no content because artists are not content creators. And that's not what I mean.
Right.
And I don't think it's that helpful, especially as someone that is making and creating content at the same time. It's like I'm kind of being a hypocrite. And I do think if people want to have like if people want to participate in the industry side of things, like it'll make it easier if you understand like how all these things work. Obviously making a good song goes a long way, or making a song a lot of people like goes a long way, but actually understanding and controlling your own media goes even further. I don't think you have to be out here creating goofy content, but just understanding what resonates with people through these things is super important. Yeah.
When I did the talk about streaming, I was thinking about how, and I don't know if this is true. This is not like a theory or anything, but an observation that I made is that I feel like every maybe decade a new technology arrives that makes music making, releasing, promoting, or distributing more accessible to the public, such as Ableton, for example, or SoundCloud, Bandcamp. And when that happens, the power shifts a little bit more back to the artists. If we're looking at artists and like the industry as enemies, kind of. And I think when that technology arrives, the power shifts, the power dynamic changes a little bit, and it shifts back to the artists so that they can be a little more self-reliant. There's like a higher chance of success. More art is encouraged, made, released. And then after a few years, the music scene and all the platforms are a little too oversaturated, too competitive. And that's when the business comes back to like fuck things up for the artist. Not that that's their intent, but I feel like the power then, like I in my head, I see it as like a pendulum, and it's not really a balanced pendulum. It always goes back to the business because capitalism, but then every 10 years there's a technology that somebody invents as a solution to save artists, not save artists, but encourage, just to pull back the power a little bit. But then it always goes back to the business side of things. And then when it does, the artist's success or just livelihood is dependent on the industry. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And do you think, what do you think, where are we now in that pendulum?
Yeah, maybe we're, again, just like in theory, this is art here, not maths, is that maybe we're at the end of the old social media curve. So like we've had Instagram for 12 years, Twitter is no more, Facebook is no more. Is it, what is the platform? Is it just TikTok? Or is that going to be the only one? Is streaming as streaming kind of peaked as a medium? Is there going to be another platform that people go on to next to explore music in a different way? Who knows? I feel like all of these things now have been around for 10 years. So people are waiting for, I don't think people are waiting for the next thing, but there will be another disruptor. And I think that may be rooted in DJing, like becoming even more accessible than it is today. So I've been using this analogy for a couple of years now. Is that, imagine if CDJs or controllers or this kind of thing would be as accessible as like a PS5, then what that does to music and like, yeah, how people engage with it, like what would happen if, I can't remember the numbers of, let's say a PS5 is like selling a couple of million units a year, and when GTA 6 comes out, it will go up another million units. If the same thing was happening with controllers, like how much that changes people's engagement with music and what that becomes in society. And if all of these things start getting synced up, so like your Spotify is connected to the controller, that data is feeding back, all of the mixes that people are doing personally at home start feeding back into the data. Do you know what I mean? Like all of that, and then if you're able to like live stream straight from the controller into TikTok, just
there's a hopeful, well, I mean, there's also AI being like the current thing that's changing everything. But I think there's the optimistic part of me is like, this is where, especially post-pandemic, this is where we return to long form. If everything is a cycle, we return to long form, we return to regional, we return to like in-person gatherings, community spaces, offline. That's the hope. But again, once you put something out, you can't take it back. So I don't know if that'll just be like a trendy, with some kids getting flip phones these days without social media. I don't know if that's just also part of the gimmick. Who knows?
Yeah, like I see it in, even when I think about the next projects I want to do, it would probably be like YouTube and Substack, not short form, not like TikTok and Instagram. Like I've done tons of short form now. It's like now it's about getting, like you said, getting deeper.
No, I was just gonna say it would be funny if the reaction to short form, because you can't really get any shorter, like, I don't know, 2-second videos. It would be funny if the reaction is just extremely long form, like 40-minute documentaries and yeah.
Like I listened to a 7-hour podcast earlier on this year.
What is this podcast?
This was Lex Friedman with this guy called Balaji earlier on this year, like 7 hours.
Balaji. I know
Yeah.
Lex Friedman. Who's Balaji?
He's like kind of he used to be the CTO of, like, a chief technology officer of this company called Coinbase, and it's kind of like worked in crypto and like
Brian Armstrong's
kind
company,
of
Okay.
and kind of VC venture capital and startups and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
So if you spell it BALIGI. I mean, not G, JI, sorry. And then, there you go. But his writing's super interesting.
Okay. I've seen him before.
And, super
7
interesting
hours,
guy.
wow.
And he's really smart. And I think it's a 7-hour podcast, but he speaks really quickly and gets into the ideas like really in a snappy way. So it's like 7 hours, but 14 hours of ideas.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So there is another square. We only have a few more questions.
Okay.
There's another square. So Eaton, this Eaton brand, I don't know what you know about it, but essentially it's a brand that's reimagining hospitality. We take efforts to put on cultural, music, art programming. That's what my team is dedicated to. So you had a square that mentioned, what if more brands adopted the RBMA model. So Red Bull Music Academy was put on by Red Bull the drink, and I think it wrapped up maybe 2017-ish.
No, I think it was a bit later. Like it fully locked off in like 2020.
Yeah, I don't remember the reason why actually.
Let's not go into that.
Okay, let's not go into that. But you mentioned, like, what if more companies can adopt that model?
Yes.
I'm curious, since you started this series, have there been any brands that have reached out to you for whether they want to be down or they want some consulting or whatever it might be?
Yeah, that's kind of what happens, like, in the background of this project, and that I don't talk about publicly, just again for confidentiality reasons, and like I would like to talk about it more, but what I think most of the approaches I've had underestimate how much and how long those companies invested for, or like Red Bull specifically invested for, to get to that stage. So it was like a 15-year project. And most of the time when people approach me, it's like a campaign. It's like something
For
that's like
a
a couple
fortnight,
months, or a shoe, or something that's going to last 3 months. Just a moment in time. And I haven't yet worked with a company that said, okay, this is even the vision to the end of the decade. Like, what does this look like in 2030?
Yeah.
Because we're like halfway through the decade now. And I think a lot more companies asking that question, like, and what place they want to have in culture, or not even in culture, but like what I think people just maybe view as like culture is like this thing that's happening and brands just tap in. And it's like, well, what is the culture of your brand?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what, like you're saying about Eaton, it's like, well, what's happening here? The culture of Eaton, and then how that filters out into the rest of the world afterwards. You know what I'm saying? And like using the Red Bull analogy, if every drink company was doing something similar, and every hotel company was doing something similar to what Eaton's doing, yeah, we wouldn't be thinking so much about streams, because there would be like a lot more vibrancy in the IRL, in the like linking up in these conversations, in gathering people, and you know what I mean, bringing music and food closer together, bringing travel and music closer together, like, do you know what I mean, all these other things that I feel like are super important, rather than like maybe statistics on a website. So yeah, I don't know, I'd like to, that's something that once this project wraps up, I would like to explore that more.
And your this Yellow Square series, the words of affirmation, the phrases of affirmation, the words of wisdom have been inspiration for so many people. We're curious, what do you look to for inspiration and motivation?
Nah, I don't think it's like, it's not intended to be motivational.
It is for many people though.
Yeah, it's like a byproduct. It's
Yeah.
like more.
It's almost like the things that we already know. Some of the things, not all the things, but some of the things that we already know we should be doing, like closing the app.
Yes.
Like, so there's this book that we read called 40,000 weeks. What's it called again? 4,000 weeks.
40,000 like your life, right?
Yeah, your life. So
Okay.
it's by Oliver Sackman, I think his name is, and it's just basically reminding you that, you know, your life is finite, and also things like you don't have to be the best at all the things that you invest your time in, and like the cosmic insignificance theory, like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So I bring up that because, why did I bring up that?
Oh, you know, like, so Balaji, one of the things that he's working on is life extension.
Oh.
So the 4,000 weeks might become 8,000.
Oh, so like the Ray Kurzweil singularity.
Yeah, he's trying to
Is he taking
push
the-
that, it's not even he's saying about extended life, it's like extending youth. So it's like us being in, you know, like a 20-year-old body longer than 20 and 30 and 40.
by taking supplements or.
Yeah, and gene editing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the Kurzweilian approach. And also, there's this guy Cal Newport.
Love his work.
Yeah,
Deep work,
I was
yeah.
wondering if it was an inspiration. So
No.
he basically talks about the pernicious effects of social media, and in order to do deep work, you have to be uninterrupted and focused, and have kind of like a digital minimalist approach.
Yep.
So I was wondering if that was at all an inspiration.
No, it wasn't. Like, what happened when I started this project, a lot of people started sending me, Cal Newport and Rick Rubin, all this stuff that I was like, okay, well, now that I know that it's there, I kind of like wanted to just ignore it and see how much I would like organically cross over with their ideas. Like, deep work is like kind of like obvious when you think about it, and he's kind of like framed it in a really clever way for people. The same with Atomic Habits and Start With Why, all these things. I was like, okay, like there are basic concepts that I feel like apply broadly in life and work and stuff. But when it comes to like, I guess the intricacies of like music and culture and time and things that are very, a lot of what I say, I don't think is like evergreen. I feel like it's for now, you know? And when putting together the book, I was like, okay, I've cut out all the things that I didn't think would still apply in 2029.
Right.
And the things that I thought like would probably still, most of them would still be evergreen. So Close the App, Social Media Canvas, Imposter Syndrome is a feature, not a bug, One of One, Greater Than Number One, like all those things will just probably stay true for quite a long time. But yeah, Calvin Ford.
I guess there's the argument that just these affirmations were in the zeitgeist, especially when people were on their phones during the pandemic, doom scrolling more than usual. So whether that's in the music creative space, or whether that's like in, I think Cal Newport's like he's just in productivity and like kind of life hacking, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
I'm like not even that interested in productivity. I'm just interested in vibes more than anything, man. It's like, are we having a good time? Like if we're making music, how much of the time are we spending making music versus all this other stuff? You know what I'm saying? Or like the bit that we saying that we enjoy, how much are we actually enjoying it? Like, I'd be around like some DJs and stuff, and it's like I spend all their time moaning. I'm like, do you even like this anymore? You know, you know. So so a lot of like my thing is like, okay, rooted in, as you can see with this project, like I'm getting to like write and put together these tunes and do these lectures and travel and kind of like bounce my ideas of people, have conversations with interesting people like you guys. It's like, that's fun. All of that is fun to me, you know, and I've tried to cut out all the things I just don't enjoy, you know. Like this thing has been very low bureaucracy, low complication, but even to get here it was like, I don't know, it took probably like 4 conversations. It wasn't that complicated, and I don't have a manager or agent or anything like this. It's like
Security.
yeah,
Security
it's just
detail.
me traveling by myself. Yeah, it's simple.
You actually kind of answered my question. I was going to
Oh,
ask you if you ever feel tired from, I mean, you do so many lectures and so much of it is like thinking about the creative process, right? And I was just wondering if you're having fun and if you ever feel like, oh, I have to tell different people the same thing again. Do you ever feel that?
No, so I continue having fun because the work is evolving in real time. So like the lectures are kind of different, like how I started it, and it kind of keeps developing. I add in other layers for myself. I'm making the thing while talking about making the thing. It's not like I'm just talking about making the thing. It's like I actually have projects like with the same architecture within the project, you know, and that's what keeps it fun for me. And it's temporary. Like all of these things are just a little small moment of life, and you know, come, you know, in a few months, like I probably won't be doing as much of these kind of lectures. I've been everywhere that was like feasible for me to go. I've have the book there and out, and there'll be time to try some other things and like explore other ideas, and like show up for a bit as well, innit?
Yeah. Where can people pre-order your book? When's it going to be out? It's going to be in stores.
Yeah, it's going to be out at the end of the year. They can pre-order it just on my Instagram. It's like the first link. And yeah, that's like, I feel like that's the kind of culmination of all of this work. And it's weird to like finish it up, like, because I've made this thing that was just started out as notes, then went to the lectures, then an album, then a visual installation, and then the book. It's like, oh, okay, I've kind of got like 5 strands to this little thing. And the next projects that I work on or part of, or like whatever shape life takes, I would like to have as many facets to them in the future, hopefully, like that.
Cool. Everybody check out Yellow Squares, the book.
Yeah. The book is actually called Close That Make the Thing.
Close That Make the Thing.
Yeah, that was like the most famous thing. Yeah.
Well, will there be a app version of the book? Will it be
No.
Close the book, close the app, make the book.
No.
Make the app.
No, so it's like an opportunity for you to like, unplug.
Yeah.
And maybe I can buy a flip phone while I'm here, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
You can buy phones for cheap here.
Yeah, okay, maybe I should buy a flip phone when I'm here. Just like roll on a flip phone for 2025.
Nice. Well, yeah, we're going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. We're looking forward to the talk with a bigger audience tomorrow afternoon. And yes, thanks again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sweet.